Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. A round of applause to you all and to Peter, please. Now, I hope you've all had a great conference, all feeling a little weary, I'm sure, but still some excitement left to come before we all head off back home. One final time, please raise and show your appreciation for our newly elected party leader, Diane James.
Ladies and gentlemen, in a few minutes, it's going to be my great pleasure to ask a member of the YI to close this conference. Probably the first time ever that the YI have been asked to take on that responsibility. But I want to send another very clear message to our opposition, that the future of this party is also with young people. And if we can appeal to young people in terms of the Brexit vote outcome, it's going to be our young independents, our youth wing, that's going to be carrying that message and being our ambassadors. But as my husband would say, I'm always the one who wants the last word, and I'm going to take a few minutes to have that little pleasure. I want to just look back, if you don't mind, on a couple of days that will go down in my memory banks for sure. I can say on behalf of my mother and my stepfather, they are absolutely so proud. And I would like to pay tribute to all of my family for the support that they've given me. But in 2 days, what have we done? What have we achieved? Let's go through what we've achieved. We've proved that we are a political force. We've reminded everybody out there, people who don't necessarily support UKIP yet, certainly reminded our opposition, but also entrenched in terms of our membership, that we are a political force, that we have won, we've achieved success, and that success will now be again, if you like, on our sights. You have very kindly also elected and welcomed a new leader, and thank you for that. Thirdly, and most importantly though, we have reaffirmed our commitment 100% to Brexit. Now that's something no other political party in the United Kingdom can claim. And when you think that the existing government is actually split still between those that would leave and those that would remain, we have to keep reminding people out there that the elected government is not committed to Brexit, but we are. Now, in my national programme of events, which was titled Meet Diane for Leader, I called upon positivity to become our political DNA. And that's going to be just one of my parting messages to you. Remember, let's be positive. Let's create positivity around this party, and let's create and remind everyone of the positivity surrounding Brexit. But what do I want you, please, to take away from this event? The most important message, I ask you to use this every time you possibly can. We are the opposition in waiting. Remember that, opposition in waiting. Opposition in waiting, though, requires those three elements. They are support me, work with me, win with me. May I give you once again my sincere thanks for making these last 2 days so pleasurable, so important, for allowing this party to move on in terms of its next era, the opportunity to thank Nigel, and now from my own appreciation bank, to thank people like Paul Oakton, to Peter Jewell, to the donors, the patrons, to everybody that contributed to this event. But to you all, every single one of you, thank you. And please, in a few minutes, just welcome Jamie on behalf of the YI. Have a good weekend. Travel safe.
Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman of YI, Jamie Ross McKenzie.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Diane. And it's an honour as the chairman of Young Independents to be closing this conference. And I don't think it's quite dawned on us how important this conference is. For those of you that don't know anything about Young Independents, you really ought to, because we're your fit young foot soldiers. Delivering your leaflets, canvassing your voters, and winning your by-elections. We're also the ones busy taking your message to young people in schools, colleges, universities, and via various media up and down the country. Those of you that were awake this morning, and I say that because some of you are looking a bit fragile, will know that Young Independents had a speech competition. And I have to say, after hearing the contestants, I'm so proud to lead such a group of talented and intelligent young people. Most importantly, I'm so glad to lead a group of young people who possess an independent mind, sometimes a bit too independent. If this competition were to take place in youth groups of other parties, I'm sure we'd hear the same robotic and passionless speeches several times over, each of the competitors first Googling, how do I get on the candidates list? But that independence of mind is a rarity today, as we hear from the Howls Against Democracy, from the spoiled Romaniac children who won't accept the decision the British people made on June the 23rd. Indeed, I hear that about 6 Lib Dems were hanging around outside today. No matter how many times you steal their berets, they still keep coming back for more. But quite seriously, how these people can, without a hint of irony and with a false sense of moral superiority, argue that they have had their future stolen while they support a project which has stolen the futures and the dignity of labour from so many of their fellow young people across Europe will always be beyond me. And that's what sets Young Independents apart in British youth politics. Far from being little Englanders in isolation, we stand in solidarity with our peers, particularly the young across Europe and across the world, who are especially blighted by the European project and similar globalist ideals. Indeed, the words of support I receive from other youth wings is most touching. I quote from a letter from 2 youth wings in our European Parliament group that I received in May of this year. Please don't give up. You saved us from Napoleon and Hitler. I'm sure you can save us from Merkel and Juncker. Encouraged by our success, they are now engaged in their own battles against the EU and their own establishments that worship at its feet. Make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, that leaving is leading, and I have every confidence that this, Brexit, will be our finest hour. But the problem we face is one of confidence. Young people in Britain today simply don't know anymore what it is to be British. They literally don't know who they are and the immense power they can unleash. Those that do are taught to be ashamed of it or hide it under a bushel. Instead of pride in a nation with an extraordinary command of the written word, the mother of parliaments, Magna Carta, the rights we once had as subjects, many of which have since been eroded, the many inventions, the way in which we consistently, by grit, determination, hard work and sacrifice, punch well above our weight, we are taught to self-flagellate. Instead of learning to cultivate that other country spoken of in the hymn, I vow to thee my country, that intangible place in the mind which demands love, valour, quiet resolve, while other countries' hymns speak of wine, women and song, we're taught to shun it. It's perhaps the greatest of paradoxes that in the new culture of education, which teaches you to love yourself, to be yourself, and to be proud of your achievements, that we have been taught to lack confidence in identifying with the very things that matter most. As a youth wing, we will seek to restore that confidence, and we ought to be confident. This is our era. The spirit of independence is the very spirit of youth, a time when we, for the first time, are genuine masters of our own destiny. That confidence must start with us as a party. I'm looking forward to working with our new leader, Diane, and her team in the months ahead, in probably the most interesting time we've ever experienced in British politics. We must never forget what a beacon of freedom and democracy Britain is to the rest of the world. People are placing their hopes on us, and we have a duty not to abandon them. If we do this right, together, united as a party and a youth wing, this will once again be our finest hour. Let's make YI the opposition youth wing in waiting. Thank you.